I wanted to spend some time, and because we're going to record this,
Okay.
so he'll take all that out at the beginning. Um, so I wanted to spend some time with a couple of things for us to be aware of. One, it's Fair Housing Month. And if you go to nar.realtor and you
Mhm.
log in, so I'm already logged in, but if you type in Fairhaven,
Okay.
now you can do this on your own screen. We'll do it together, or you can do we can do it together, or you can just watch me do it and you do it later. It's up to you.
Oh,
Make
yeah,
sure you
because I
see
still
it.
got to set up. Yeah, I got to figure out what my login is.
Yeah, so here it's a Fairhaven is a fair housing simulation.
Uh-huh.
And I'm clicking on that.
I've heard you talk about that before in a team meeting
Yep.
to go online and do the simulator.
So I may not have, I'm going to stop share for a second because I want to make sure that I shared the sound.
Okay.
I don't know that I did that when I shared my screen. I did not. And I'm going to share again. Okay. So you should be, and we're going to start just so you see what it looks like.
Okay.
If the internet's going to take us there, we are. There we go. So here you can actually start taking the fair housing. This is the demolition, a demonstration of the simulation, and then this is a small video about it. But then there's also graphics behind it that you can use on your own. Once you graduate, you can use as a graduate of Fairhaven.
Oh,
So, yep,
that's cool.
yep. And let's go to Fairhaven. So you have to sign in. So I've already graduated before. So this is a previous one. Okay.
So with the simulation, is it all like, would you and I take the same test basically, or
Yeah, yours is not
scenarios?
different. Yeah, yours is not different from mine.
Okay.
Um,
But that makes sense because that means we're all looking at the same situations.
yeah, so I'm trying to get it to start without not where I'm at, but
Okay.
let's see if I can do that. Yeah, see, I've already graduated, so
Probably won't let you back in, will it?
let me see. I wanted to Okay. So can you see neighborhoods in Fairhaven right here?
Uh-huh.
So there's East Daring, Rolling Downs, Grenada Park. So if you click on these, it should go to descriptions of most of these neighborhoods. Um, what if I want to go back to the beginning? Well, we'll just do one.
Okay.
Um, so this is colleague conversations. These are the chapters. So you're at the office when you receive an email from a managing broker announcing initiative to expand sales in East Deering, which is a neighborhood in Fairhaven. It's a
Mm-hmm.
historically Black neighborhood. So hi team, as a member, we want to expand our imprint and start selling homes near East Daring. East Daring is much to offer to our clientele. Please review the literature I've sent over about East Daring's plethora of cultural offerings and its signature architectural style. If you have any questions or concern about the new initiative, reach out to me immediately, Harold. So in the office, managing broker, which would be like me, sending you an email about expanding East Daring, which is historically Black, with plethora of culture offerings and architectural style. Later, as you grab a cup of coffee in the break room, you overhear two colleagues discussing the East Daring initiative. So, Kim, I'm going to let you be the blue and me be the turquoise.
Okay. I'm not wasting any of my time taking clients to East Daring.
Why? What's wrong with selling in East Daring?
I don't feel comfortable in that neighborhood. I'm not sure any of my buyers would want to live there either.
Well, there are some nice houses there, but yeah, I guess I would feel a little out of place. So, you just overheard two colleagues discussing plans to steer clients away from a Black neighborhood. What do you do? Do you do one or do you do two?
Okay, so hold on. Let me see if I can move this. Oh, never mind. Yeah, because my screen sharing is. Um,
So join the conversation and remind them how important it is for the company to sell more homes there, or leave the break room immediately so you're not implicated in this issue.
um, I would leave the break room
Okay.
immediately.
So you leave the break room and leave and go about your day. Later in the week, you overhear that same colleague advising two of her clients.
I know that the price points seem attractive, but I wouldn't go to East Daring at night.
Okay, so what neighborhood would you recommend?
Have you considered Rolling Downs? That's a safe neighborhood.
So now, what do? You write down what you overheard, wait and share this information with your managing broker so your colleagues don't suspect it was you, or privately bring up the situation with your colleague later that day.
Um,
So you're overhearing this conversation about safe neighborhoods.
so it's then as an agent, what would you do?
Yep.
I would write down what you ever heard. Wait to share this information with your managing broker so your colleagues don't suspect it was you.
So your managing broker is glad you brought it up, but confused that you waited so long. When you hear something inappropriate or illegal, you have an opportunity to report it to the broker, and there really isn't a reason to wait. Not that your answer is wrong, it's just that there's a better one.
Right.
That you kind of got to stop it in its tracks because it's technically unfair housing, right?
Gotcha.
So you attempted to address discriminatory behavior, but the way you went about it was not effective as it should have been. If you recognize another agent's engaging in behavior that might violate fair housing, you have an opportunity to report it to the managing broker in the office. Learn more about this practice, avoiding steering. So you then can click here and it takes you to some resources about steering from the fair housing corner.
Okay.
Or we can go back and let's continue. So the next scenario, you're the realtor. As a realtor, you're obligated to comply with Norris Code of Ethics. In addition to federal, state, and local fair housing laws in Fairhaven prohibit LGBTQ plus discrimination. Let's jump in. You're the realtor. You get a new client. You've just been assigned a new client. AJ's 30-year-old software. I live alone, but I also work out of my house. So office space is a must. As far as location goes, I really like the energy in Blandon Heights and Grenada Park. So you're the agent.
Okay. That you think AJ will. I'm going to call the seller's agent right now to see if we can swing by.
Awesome. I'd love if we could check it out today. I'm available the rest of the afternoon. So you call the seller's agent.
I have a client sitting here with me right now who would love to see the house.
Oh, that's good news. The seller's really looking forward to getting an offer. Is your client free to come by today?
He just told me that he can come by this afternoon.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to hearing what he thinks. You hang up the phone and you notice AJ looks uncomfortable.
Everything okay, AJ?
You misgendered me on the phone. I'm a woman. You can refer to me as she or her. How would you respond to AJ? You can apologize for the mistake, correct yourself, and pledge to do better, or take this opportunity to ask AJ a few questions about her identity and why using she, her, hers pronouns are important.
Apologize for your mistake, correct yourself, and pledge to do better in the future.
It's a good decision. Whether it's intentional or accidental, you misgendered your client. Keep your apology brief and sincere. AJ thanks you for the apology. After that acceptance offer, you move forward and have a meaningful conversation about her wants and needs for a home. The two of you gather your things and set out to view the listing in Blandon Heights. After seeing it, AJ buys your offer. You present AJ's offers to the seller's agent, who's a realtor. Based on their curt responses to your phone calls and emails, you get a sense that neither the seller nor the realtor is motivated to finalize the sale. During negotiation, the seller makes a cruel remark about your client's gender. The seller's remark is not only inappropriate, it may violate Realtor Code of Ethics. Continue. So, you fear the seller's behavior will prevent AJ from getting the home. How would you proceed? Ask the other realtor to speak with their client and end the discriminatory behavior. Schedule a call with the seller and your client so the seller can see how excited AJ is about the house.
Ask the other realtor to speak with their client and end the discriminatory behavior.
Good call. Discrimination is illegal in Fairhaven. It's your responsibility to protect the client from discriminatory behavior. You decide to call the realtor and ask to speak with the client. Ask them to speak with the client about the discriminatory behavior. However, the seller still refuses to finalize. AJ is restless and she doesn't understand why the sale's not going through. Throughout the simulation, you will sometimes be able to select more than one answer. When a question is posed, select all and apply. So AJ is upset and discouraged. How would you proceed? So to protect AJ's feelings, tell her this type of delay is normal. Set up a meeting for AJ to view homes in the area of town that are more friendly. Inform AJ about the seller's previous remarks and share your belief that discrimination was involved. Provide AJ with information and resources on where to file a complaint.
Oh,
I've actually never seen this one, Kim, so this
okay.
is interesting to me as well. So,
Okay.
and we can choose multiples.
Yeah, I was gonna say provide AJ with information and research.
Okay.
I would maybe do that one. And then inform AJ about the seller's previous remarks.
Okay.
Just so those two things go together.
It's time to be transparent the realtor way with your client. Inform them the previous remarks and share your belief that discrimination was involved. From there, provide AJ with information on where to file a complaint against the seller and the seller's agent. Because remember, you asked the seller's agent to stop the behavior already.
Mhm.
Follow up your conversation with a letter to AJ so it's in writing that summarizes the discussion. AJ is grateful, takes your advice, files a complaint with the Civil Rights Commission. Letting clients know about the fair housing rights is an important step towards ending the discrimination in housing. Informed customers can better recognize discrimination and address it. So clearly, are you seeing how this goes?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
While AJ may ultimately obtain some relief from the Fairhaven Civil Rights Commission, the investigation will not include in the time for her to move into the house. So while it is pending, she renews her apartment lease for another year and puts her homeowner dreams on hold. So we had a client with an offer and we kind of lost the sale because of discrimination,
Yep.
is what this is saying.
Which is like something you really can't control because it's that seller and that listing agent was really out of your control, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
But you did what was right.
yeah.
So someone that you sold a condo to in Grenada Park leaves a comment on your social media page. The profanity-filled post complains about the loud music, strong cooking smells, and all the dirty immigrants.
Oh my.
What do you do? Ooh,
Mm.
I ain't seen this one either. This is good. The comment: leave the post up since everyone has the right to free speech. Make a note of who posted the offensive comment and add it to your file. Remove it, replace it with a post from you that reinforces your commitment to fair housing.
I would remove the post.
Good choice. You should remove any discriminatory comments posted on your own social media, website, blogs, etc. as soon as possible. To protect your community and your business, place language on your website and social media pages that reinforce your commitment to fair housing. You should also include a disclaimer warning visitors that you remove comments that contain profanity and/or discriminatory language. From there, you should investigate the complaint, but until you address the offensive comment on your page. So we're going to be a client, no longer a realtor. So you and your partner Jen recently found out that you're expecting twins. Congratulations. Since you will need all the help you can get, you decide to move your family to Fairhaven to be closer to your in-laws. Called one of Fairhaven's well-reviewed real estate agencies. The agent is assigned to assist you. However, after a couple of meetings, you feel that you and your partner are not getting the kind of service you'd like to reach out to the agency's managing broker. So you send this to Barbara Canalini. My partner and I have been working with the agent, Aaron Schwartz, for the past few months. While I made it clear to him that we had a very specific and unwavering budget, we find he consistently shows us homes over our limit. When we do our own research online, it seems like there are more options than what we are being shown. What would you advise? So the broker sends back, thank you for reaching out about this. Let's schedule a meeting to talk about this in person. Our agency is committed to providing you with the optimal client experience. I'm sure we can work it out. Let me know what times work best. So now you schedule a meeting with the broker. Barbara welcomes you and Jen and then gets right to the point. So I'll let just be you. You can be
Oh,
Barb.
the client or
Yep.
the,
I'll be managing broker.
okay.
So I'm so sorry you weren't having a positive experience with Mr. Schwartz. I went ahead and made a switch for you. I'm setting you up with one of our other agents, Kim. Did you ask for that? So how does that feel, right?
You're very confused. You try to clarify. We weren't asking you to switch our agents. We just wanted to discuss our relationship and see if we can find a way to work together a little better.
Oh, don't worry about it. I want to find you all the right fit. Kim's super motivated and focused. I know you're going to get along perfectly. You have similar backgrounds. You and Jen are both Korean, and Kim is Japanese. You decide to let this comment slide about the similar backgrounds.
Mhm.
You don't want to shame anyone. You just want to find a house before the twins' due date. Barbara calls Kim into the office and introduces you to her. After a couple meetings, you get a very similar vibe from your new agent, just like you did from Aaron, the previous agent. Kim only presents you with limited listings. She also seems interested in pushing you into a house that you can barely afford. Now what? You, the client, get to make choices to see the various ways the story plays out. You can select the options and view their outcomes. So, what would you do next? Email the managing broker and share your dissatisfaction with Kim service, or keep working with Kim and hope that the working relationship improves.
Mhm. Try emailing the managing broker again.
Just like last time, Barbara immediately responds and encourages you to come to the office. You return to the office to discuss your relationship with your agent. When you ask Barbara why she paired you with Kim, she tells you she assumed you would get along because of your similar backgrounds. Sound familiar?
Hmm.
What do you do next? You point out that Kim is Japanese and you and Jen are Korean, or ask Barbara if you can work with a different agent.
I would probably point out that Kim is Japanese and you and Jen are Korean.
Barbara gets flustered and is embarrassed, but she doesn't apologize. The meeting ends without any resolute actions. Try another option.
Okay. Ask.
Barbara seems exasperated when you ask to work with a different agent. She'll figure something out. As promised, she pairs you with a third agent. Unfortunately, this agent is even less compatible than the first two. She never returns your calls and often seems disorganized when accompanying you to viewings. So, this is the third agent.
Good gracious.
You've been working with this brokerage for a month. Unfortunately, you're no closer to finding a home than when you started. Your in laws tell you that you can move in with them. As much as you don't want to do that, the clock is ticking. At this point, it seems like the most practical solution. So, wait a second. You've lost a second client. I mean, if consumers complain about service they're receiving, don't assume the problem is related to their background or identity. Address the specific issue they raise. The broker's assumption about the Guans, based on their background, caused her to ignore the actual problem, and she continued to match them with agents who weren't a good fit. Don't assign home buyers to agents based on race, origin, religion, or other characteristics. So actually, the broker made you. How did that make you feel, Kim?
Um, I mean, it's weird that to think that that obviously is a real situation and that people just assume that because you look like somebody that it's going to work out. I mean, it's weird. Um, and for me, I mean, it's always weird because people generally in areas that aren't familiar with where I come from
Uh huh.
already assume that they know who I am and they don't.
Hmm.
So they'll speak, I generally get people speaking Spanish to me, that kind of thing. So I've been
Right.
in these situations. It makes you feel uncomfortable because it's almost like for me, it's like you've already made an assumption of who I am without even asking.
Yeah. So I can see that the folks wouldn't be sure if you were Indian or if you were Latina or if you were um, you know, even African American for
Mm-hmm.
some light skinned folks. I mean,
Yep.
that would absolutely be true, but folks wouldn't be sure and treat you one way or the other. That's an assumption.
Right.
Um, and certainly can make you feel a certain way.
Yeah. I think for me, being a person of color, it and I guess because I mean, I guess the way that I was brought up, I mean, it wasn't ever a thing, but where it hits home for me is with my children. I find it
Mm,
hurts more with my children, in the sense where people assume they're one thing and they're not, kind of thing. Or
yeah,
um, yeah, like they've already made an assumption when it comes to my children. It's, and then my children have to explain. So that
yeah,
it's awkward there for me.
yeah. I I mean, that's a real powerful statement that you just shared, so thank you for that. I mean, I certainly didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh no.
And do
And I
you
think
feel that way as being like a mama bear,
uh,
protecting their cubs, or is it like um, uh, where does that come from? Like,
um probably there first and foremost, being the mama bear, making sure that, someone doesn't I guess hurt their feelings. But then second, it comes from just trying to make sure that I teach my children how that we have to continue to educate people. And that's the
yeah,
only way we'll get cross these barriers and break the barriers. Because if we don't educate, then we're not helping either. And we do take it from that point as well. Like we've got to educate, we've got to bring it to the table, because that's the only way people know, because we can't assume everybody knows either, and
yeah,
that's where we've always taken it, because we've always um lived in different places. My children have never lived in the community, in the Native community. So they have always been different. They've always been the only one sometimes. So it's
yeah,
really for us just keep, to continue to educate them and have them know as much as they can to educate other people.
yeah. So, hey, Val, thanks. We're glad you're here. I'm just letting you know we're going through Fairhaven, and we're just going through a few of the examples. This
Okay.
is being recorded, so we're going to share it, of course, with anybody out there that wants to watch.
Okay.
So we just finished one of the simulations. If you look in the left corner, the goal of Fairhaven is to sell 4 houses within a month. So we
Mm.
sold one, and we got 19 weeks and 2 days remaining to
Oh,
sell.
okay.
So it
Mhm.
kind of tracks where we are. So we're going to go to the next one. So early in 2019, Newsday did, this is ironically great point. May March April 22nd, we're actually going to have um, Fair Housing Academy, which takes this Newsday investigation into a 4-hour study. And they found that 19% of Asians, 39% of Hispanics, 49% of Blacks received unequal treatment in Long Island. So again, that's a shameless plug, but um, Monday, April 22nd, we'll be doing that class from 9 to 1.
I was just watching something. I can't even remember what it was, but it was yesterday. I was watching TV and I saw something about it's a movie, I think, or a TV show about how in Detroit they had the 8 Mile and that was redlined and
Yep,
that's what separated. And I was like, oh, that's so funny because we were just talking about this.
yep.
Oh wow.
And then actually in St. Louis, they called it Black Wall Street, and it
Hmm.
was a thriving,
Yes.
wealthy community of entrepreneurs and um, very successful. And they actually came in and destroyed it
Yep.
out of spite, really. Same thing happened in Wilmington. A lot of people don't know the story of Wilmington, North Carolina. The African American population had created almost like a second St. Louis.
Oh,
They
wow.
had elected officials in the early 1900s that are African American. They had businesses they owned and ran, and again, it was all torn apart by the Civil War and stuff.
I had
So,
no idea.
yep. So this is the video actually we played in class the other day. Oh,
As opposed to 50 years ago, the reality of racism today, a lot of it's underground, clandestine, it's covert. There's no way for me to ever find out unless there's a pair testing, as in this case. It almost makes me wish that the racism is more explicit so that I would know about it.
Too often I hear people who maybe aren't as familiar with this kind of work say, oh, well, they were just testers. But all you have to do is tell someone, which I have to do on a fairly regular basis, that you were turned down because of your race, and tell them the circumstances that occurred on a particular test, and you will see just how real and painful that injury is.
There's a point in the video with that young lady crying right there, and it's poignant. Like, I will never not think of her in that moment during class. And I hope y'all come and join. It's a great class. But again, often the other thing, it's such a fallacy, is you bring up fair housing and the first people think is, oh, race. And, oh, African American. And that's not fair housing. Fair housing is all non-protected classes. Unfortunately, the first thing people often jump to is race. So,
because people don't realize that. I guess that's the thing, when you talk about discrimination, it's like the word race is the only thing they go to. Like,
Yep.
we've been taught that for some reason, that racism is that, and that's it, and that's where it stops.
Yep.
That's so untrue.
And when it comes to fair housing, it's religion, it's sex, it's familial status, it's age, it's all of them. So, so in conclusion of the last one, the Guans didn't feel heard and they felt frustrated. The agent made assumptions. They take a moment to reflect. How did you feel when the people made assumptions? Which is really what we were talking to that led us into that discussion. So let's get back to our goal of selling a house in Fairhaven. So the approach by new agent prospect Pedro Silva, who recently immigrated from Brazil. Communication is challenging because his English is limited and you speak no Portuguese. How do you handle this situation? So do you try to find a way to work with Pedro? Tell him that you only conduct business in English.
I would try to find a way to work with Pedro.
Val, you got a thought?
I agree with Kim.
Okay. Well, we're going to choose that one. So Pedro seems driven and eager to view properties, but you aren't quite sure of his needs. How do you work with his client? Look into real-time interpretation services for your meetings with the client, or ask Pedro if he can bring an adult relative or friend along to interpret.
I think I would look into real-time interpretation services. I think that might look a little bit more professional and more willing on my part, and more inclusive on my part.
Yeah, I agree. I think, first of all, I was thinking, okay, yeah, bring a friend, but then I'm thinking that's not going to help probably. So yeah, getting a real-time interpretation service.
It's a great idea. If this is your first time dealing with a client who speaks this language, check with your networks to get a recommendation from an interpreter locally. There may be free resources in your community. You can ask if Pedro has an adult relative or friend who would come along to interpret. So it's not wrong to ask him that, but you should also look for resources in the community that might have that. I will tell you, often with like social services or churches often do this, or they have even court systems have people to interpret for folks. So good choice. So after asking around the office, one of your agents recommends a real-time interpretation company that offers online and in-person services. Find some new listings for Mr. Silva. When you review them along with the interpreter, you can see the relief of happiness in Pedro's eyes.
Yay.
With the interpretation services, you're able to make recommendations to fit your client's needs. This helps speeds along things, and you quickly find some homes that meet his needs. After a few days of viewing, Pedro is ready to make an offer on one of the homes in River Center. When it comes time to discuss legal and contractual issues, you work with the interpreter to ensure Pedro clearly understands the discussion and make sure he has access to all necessary documents in Portuguese. So conclusion, hey, we sold the house. We went to 2. So Pedro's offer is accepted. He's ecstatic to own his first home in the U.S. and thankful for your excellent service. Congratulations on the sale. As real estate professionals, we should make every reasonable effort to provide the same service for non-native speakers as we would for English speakers. So now we have 17 weeks and 1 day left. So good job.
We're halfway there.
I know. Oh, bad press.
Oh my
Uh-oh.
gosh.
Not all press is good. A local TV reporter goes undercover and finds that 3 agencies are steering clients to different neighborhoods based upon their race. Though you do not work for the agencies investigated, you notice a temporary decline in new prospects. The parking space. Your client is Viola together for a while to find her apartment. Val, you want to be Viola?
Say that one more time.
Do you want to read that off? You can.
Oh, yeah. I'm a city girl through and through, so I want to be downtown in the middle of the action. I also use a wheelchair, so the home I choose will need to be accessible.
So you're looking for a new condo. She's a city girl. She likes the action, and she has a wheelchair, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, after viewing several listings, Viola finds a condo she loves. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath located in the heart of downtown. The designated parking spot for the condo is up a hill and inaccessible for Viola. In your offer letter, you request an accessible parking spot for your client. Shortly after submitting the offer, you get a voicemail from the seller's agent. Kim, I'll let you be the agent.
Okay. I'm calling with bad news. The condo board won't let my client accept your client's offer. The board says they can't accommodate her special parking request. It's unfortunate, but you know how it is. Parking is so difficult downtown.
So this isn't really looking good for your client. What do you do next? Set up a meeting with the condo board and Viola to work backwards towards an acceptable parking accommodation, or explain to Viola how difficult it is to negotiate parking downtown, and advise her to consider new areas of town that are less densely populated.
Set up a meeting?
Yeah.
That's what I'm leaning towards.
All right. Schedule a meeting with the board. Before the meeting, you talk to Viola and discuss her specific parking needs. At the meeting, you explain Viola's parking accommodation needs to the board. You also remind them that it's their legal obligation to accommodate reasonable requests. The members of the board politely listen and tell you that they will, quote, see what they can do. So that's actually the fair housing law with a disability is if it's a reasonable request, it should be allowed and honored. So the next morning you get an email from the board. Thank you for joining us last night. We were able to arrange a parking space swap with another person in the building. I've attached an image of the parking spot to this email. Let us know if this will be an accessible point for your client. And Val, you're Viola.
Oh. This is exactly what I need. The spot is close to the main entrance and not on an incline. Thank you for helping me with this.
Hey, we went to 3.
Nice.
Good job.
Viola's offer is accepted, and congratulations on the sale. Next month, she moves into her new condo. She's grateful that you helped her secure an accessible parking spot. You remind her that that's part of your job. It's also a responsibility of the condo board to make reasonable accommodations that allow all occupants to access and enjoy the dwelling. If the board had refused to assist in this process or denied the client to arrange accessible parking, you or your client seller could have filed a discrimination complaint. So again, if we had answered differently earlier, it would have taken us to the discrimination conversation. So let's see. Now we're down to 2 weeks. No. A black agent is showing your client's home, so you're the seller's agent, to a potential buyer. When the agent uses the key you left in the lockbox, the neighbors call the police to report them as a potential threat. The police show up at the house and question the agent ruining the viewing for the buyers. Actually, this happened. I had to deal with this.
Oh my goodness.
So think about your experiences. How do you recall feeling when renting or buying a home? Select all of these that might apply. Would you have been excited about the financial step forward?
Yeah,
Intimidated?
of course.
Frustrated by the steps?
Depending. Yeah.
Worried that you might make a wrong decision?
Probably.
Or I've never been in. I'm going to submit there. Thanks. The more you can empathize with a client and their experiences, the better you can help them find what they want. In Fairhaven, you have the chance to glean insight into their perspective. Now we're the clients that got the police called.
Mhm.
So we flipped over.
Were the buyer clients or the neighbors?
Oh, this is a new one. You and
Oh,
your husband tied the knot 3 months ago. Congratulations. Now that the wedding and the honeymoon is behind you, you decide it's time to focus your energy on buying your first house together. So you flipped over. Both you and your husband have stable jobs and can save up for down payment. Still a lot you need to figure out. Together, you compile a list. You've received a pre-approval, save for the down payment. You do need to still pick out what you want or need and pick out an agency. Look at you, your best friend Amy just bought a house. She has a wonderful advice. Tells you all about her experience over drinks. I'll let y'all play this one out.
Okay, I'll start. Erica, get an agent. They are so helpful, especially for first-time home buyers like us. My agent Jill was so supportive. She always had my back.
that's good to hear.
She's great. Here, I'm going to text you her info.
So you look up your friend's agent online based on the glowing reviews. Everyone seems to really love working with Jill, so you give her a call. Jill's very personable and friendly on the phone. She asks a few questions about you and your husband's desired needs and wants. You answer those questions the best you can, but admit that as first-time buyers, you're still unsure of what exactly you're looking for. You can be Jill, Val.
All right, Jill is the dark blue.
Yep.
Okay, completely understandable. That's what I'm here for.
Thank you. All of these choices can be so overwhelming.
You sound like me 20 years ago when I was buying my first place. Why don't you and your husband come in next week and I'll show you some listings? I've got 2 houses in Rolling Downs that I bet you'll adore.
My husband's going to be so excited. Is there anything we need to bring with us for our initial meeting?
Just your appetites. My listing tours always include scones from Bunsen Bakery.
Jill, you're still dark green.
Okay. And she had been on the phone.
So Jill remains professional, and you notice she seems less personable than she had been on the phone earlier.
So remind me again, what price point are we working with? So many phone calls, I struggle to keep everyone straight.
No worries. You told me on the phone that you had some great properties in Rolling Downs to show us.
She shuffles some papers and avoids your gaze.
Have you thought about Grenada Park? I just love the folks in that neighborhood.
Actually, Miguel grew up in that part of town.
Well, then you know how festive it gets there. Oh, I've got a charming little property that I know you two will love. Let me pull it up for us.
Miguel clears his throat.
We're not really interested in living in Grenada Park. We're looking to move to a new area of Fairhaven.
Fine, fine. We can look at the places in Rolling Downs. I just need to see your pre-approval letter.
So, you didn't bring your pre-approval letter. The agent didn't mention that on the phone that you need to bring it with you. So now let's make choices to see how this story plays out. You can select all the options and view the outcomes. So how do you respond? Oh, we're pre-approved for a loan, but I didn't bring it with me. Or I didn't bring it. When you spoke on the phone, you didn't mention I needed to bring it.
I would say the second one.
Me
if
too.
I was
'Cause-
if I was the client, yeah.
yeah.
So with a warm smile, Jill tells you not to worry about forgetting the letter. Mistakes happen, but you can understand why I need to be sure you're pre-approved, right?
Hmm.
No.
Miguel looks up your lender's info on the phone. Jill's not familiar with that lender, and she doesn't believe a phone confirmation is sufficient. As you never know who you're talking to on the phone, what do you do now? Keep encouraging Jill to call your lender or to end the appointment.
um
I'm going to say keep encouraging Jill to call your lender.
yeah.
Jill concedes. She calls to request the information, but the lender doesn't pick up. After a few minutes of awkward small talk, she suggests you go home and find the letter and set up an appointment for another day. She hands you some pamphlets for first time homeowners and sends you on your way. On your drive home, you pursue the pamphlets. Even though you only spoke English in the appointment, all the literature she gave you was in Spanish.
Hmm.
The next morning, you call Amy, who you had friends with, and she recommended Jill.
She made me feel like we did something wrong by not bringing in our pre-approval letter.
Wait, that's why she wouldn't take you out to see places?
Yeah, I mean, if she had told me, I would have brought it.
Oh, that's me. There's no way that I brought in my pre-approval letter when I first met with her, and she still took me to see a ton of listings. I'm so sorry you had that experience with her. I mean, Jill is a top-rated agent. I had no idea she'd treat you so unprofessionally.
Neither did I.
You're shocked to learn that Jill took Amy to see listings without her letter, but then she refused to do it the same for you. You and Miguel are more than qualified to buy a home in Rolling Downs. A week goes by. Neither you nor Jill attempt to reschedule the appointment. You share your experience with Jill in the form of an online review. This time, as you scroll through her glowing reviews, you notice that all of them are written by white clients.
Mhm.
Later that month, you meet with another agent who is far more welcoming. She takes you out to see homes that both you and Miguel love. Within a few months, you're moving into a beautiful ranch house in Rolling Downs.
Hmm.
So basically, Jill blew it.
Mhm.
This agent allowed Amy to view homes without her letter and refused to do the same for Erica and Miguel. She also tried to steer them towards another neighborhood based upon their origin. She could be charged with a violation of code of ethics and fair housing laws. As realtors, we pledge to provide equal professional service to all clients, to prevent treating clients in an unequal way. Follow the procedures consistently with every client. That's why I say create a system. So if asking for a letter, that's not a problem. You just need to ask every single person for a letter. You can't skip a beat and say, ask one for Jill and not for Erica. So,
It's like you almost have to have the same menu for everybody. Like
yeah,
the
exactly.
step 1 through 10 has to be, no matter who it is, 1 through 10 has to be done.
So, unfortunately, this story was actually a real story you just went through. Watch this clip to learn the footage about from the Justice Center.
I was shown a nice apartment up on the top floor by the super of the building. We were looking around, you poking around as you do, look in the closets and this, and oh, this looks nice. And yeah, okay, I gotta get my wife to come and see this. And we went over and looked out the window a little bit, and he looked around and he said, listen, I've been doing this for 30 years in this building. I've never let one black person live here yet.
Housing discrimination is very prevalent in American life, and one of the ways we know that is through studies that are conducted by private fair housing groups, that there really is pervasive discrimination in terms of rental housing, in terms of people who are trying to buy homes. They may do it in a very friendly way. They may direct you to a different kind of housing opportunity. They may say, oh, I suddenly have nothing available.
Looking for an apartment in New York City is like Navy SEAL training. I mean, it's pretty intense. You're gonna go through a lot of apartments, looking for apartments on Craigslist, looking through brokers. It can be quite challenging.
Constantly running around to all different corners of the city, and then also presenting your credentials. Our financial situation was good, that our credit was good. We both had good jobs, we both have good backgrounds. There was nothing that we could think of that would disqualify us from getting the best apartment that we could afford. We both had really sort of clear criteria as far as what we wanted in terms of apartments. I wanted something that was spacious and sunny and lots of light and whatever. We wanted enough room for ourselves to be comfortable, nice neighborhood, et cetera, et cetera. Finally, we found this one in Park Slope, and it seemed ideal. From the description, from the pictures. There was a big snowstorm in progress. It was just beginning on Saturday. And there were not a lot of people who called Andrea, who lived there, to make appointments to see the apartment. So we got there first. We were the first ones who saw it. Apparently, we were the only ones who saw it because the other couple that was scheduled to come by never did make it because of the storm. It was beautiful. When we saw it, it was exactly what we were looking for. It was spacious and sunny, and the apartment itself was in good condition. The building was in good condition. The neighborhood was great. It was ideal.
Immediately, Steve phoned the real estate broker to rent the apartment.
We had a pretty good exchange. She gave me a list of items that I would need to bring in order to begin the application process. She faxed over the material. She goes, it sounds like you guys are good and qualified candidates. I told her our credit score was excellent. She was excited on the phone. I told her that the next morning I'd be there bright and early. She said, okay, great, we'll see you tomorrow morning. Wednesday, I go to the realty office and I asked the receptionist, is Roseanne available? Roseanne heard me. She stood up and said, hello, can I help you? And I began the process of giving her all of my paperwork. As I'm giving her my IDs to make a copy for my wife and I, the receptionist turns and says, the copier's broken. At the time, Roseanne had a peculiar look on her face, as though that's news to her.
Steve went to a nearby shop to get the copies himself.
I come back, I give her a photocopy of our IDs, and I start to pull out money in order to pay for the application fee. And she told me that I'm not going to take your money. And I was like, why not? And she said that there are other applications ahead of yours. So if we get to yours, we'll contact you. And I was just shocked and stunned. I was of the impression that I was a very different circumstance.
This is this common phrase that people talk about in fair housing, that real estate brokers or landlords, they discriminate with a handshake and a smile. It's actually done often in a sort of congenial way, as if what we should expect is that you want to live over there with other minorities and not in this neighborhood. We have nothing for you here.
It just seemed incredible to us that in this day and age in New York City, that someone would decide that we weren't qualified to live there because of our race.
So I'm going to stop there because I want you all to go to Fairhaven on your own. And I want you to, I mean, that's me signed in at nar.realtor, but I hope you see a glimpse of real life scenarios of what's happening in real life out there and everyday agents and their practices that really are unfair. So, otherwise, what questions or thoughts or anything you want to share about kind of what you saw?
Nope.
It's truly eye-opening. I mean, that you talk about it a lot, that it happens, and
Yeah.
it's just, I guess for me, making sure that I am aware and I guess educated that I don't do it. But I think you might have mentioned this, like we probably all have our own
Biases.
and I don't even realize that. Like when you said that the other day in a meeting, I was like, oh my gosh, do I have it? And I don't even realize that people notice or something.
Yeah.
Because I've
How
never
did it
thought that
feel?
much about it.
How did it feel being flipped around and you were the client?
I mean, that's harsh. I mean, to think that somebody like the profession that I chose does that to people, because I would never want to do that to anybody, because I wouldn't want that done to myself.
Right.
And I guess because I know, I guess in a sense, kind of firsthand, but just from say your family history. I mean, I know what, my parents have gone through, and I would never want to be treated like that myself, but I would never want to treat somebody like that.
Well, and that's where I say it's one thing, like I say in the class that like you said earlier, I've heard you say it. To me, this is a real example, and you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only a 30-minute simulation of what could happen, or what is happening, unfortunately, out there. And that's where people think, oh, I know all about fair housing. I mean,
You don't.
and until you see these and think about them, you're probably looking back on scenarios and situations, and you're like, oh my gosh, I treated someone unfairly.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it. Not intentionally, I've done it. Not being consistent, or willing, like telling someone to come in for an appointment, and then we have the appointment, everything's fine, but then someone else calls me later, and because we either don't have time or I think the house is going to go too fast, and I'll just meet you at the house. Well, I just treated somebody differently than I did earlier with an appointment.
Yeah.
And that was unfair housing in essence. Now I get the reasoning, and I get, as long as that's understood between the parties, that's why we did it that way.
Right.
Why did I vary from my normal routine of
So
how
you would say to them, "Oh, I normally do a first meeting at the office, but since time is limited, I'll go ahead and meet you at the property." That
Yep,
would cover you?
yep, some kind of documentation or conversation that says this is why we're doing this differently. See, that is easy for me to defend if I'm in front of the Fair Housing Committee to say, or the commission, to say, look, this is why it was different. They talked about why we don't normally, there's an appointment, we met them at the house, blah 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 blah. So if
Because
we
you
were ever
don't
charged with a
you don't
violation.
want your other clients, for like, say if you get into a situation where they have to get records or something, you don't want another client to be like, oh yeah, Jason did this, and this for
Yep.
me, right? I mean,
Or like Jill,
Or
the
like
friends
refer.
that recommended Jill, they're like, Jill's like, she didn't ask for a letter from me. What are you talking about?
right.
Um,
Yeah.
and then they really started like, well, wait a second.
What is she doing?
Why did she ask a letter from us, but not my friend Jill? So anyway, I hope I bring this, and then this is recorded, and Daniel will share it. I hope some other folks watch it to kind of open the dialogue. And that's why we do this, even, is to share and see examples so that we know we can be better. And when I say protect your R, that your R is no different than my R, than her R, than his R, than their R. The people in this video and whatnot, it's the same R. And if they choose to act differently or treat people that way, it's a reflection on the industry and our profession, not just that one person. It's bigger than you. It's bigger than them. And that's what we're constantly having to combat or look at or fight or overcome. So I often think about that video when the Asian gentleman says from Long Island, he says, I would have never known it had I not been a part of this to see how he was treated versus me. I would have thought I got decent service,
Right.
but
Yeah.
what did I miss? Like, you know, and it's those subtle things that often we don't realize that, wait a second, maybe that's my bias kicking in. Maybe it's my prejudice, which I would certainly hope not. Because, those folks can go hang their license somewhere else. But I'd rather them be out of the profession, but not with us. So,
And
if they don't stay here.
I think, as again, as a person of color in this profession and any profession, I mean, it just made me think of because I am offering a service to where I have to be hired, that it could also, the tables could be like flipped in that scenario, that Jason, you come to me and you're like, I'm not going to hire you, but yet I see you hire another agent in the office. It's that we have to think about that as well, like, and that's the world we live in. And
Yeah, I actually had a situation where a client asked the agent of color if her signs had her picture on them.
Wow.
And she said, well, why? Like, she didn't answer yes or no. She said, why? And he said, well, I don't want to steer one group or another to the house. Which was as bad, I want to believe he was asking to say that the house was open to all. I'm afraid from the description I was told that wasn't the reasoning.
Yeah.
And that house was listed with some agent and sold.
People don't realize, like the simple questions carry so much weight and meaning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or phrases we don't realize today, like being from the wrong side of the tracks.
Right.
That is redlining that the other side of that tracks, those are not good people. And we just say that haphazardly, like, even professions, women don't earn what men do, period. It's a fact. So, but we say policeman, fireman, mailman, like over and over and over, we say these gender roles and professions as if women can't do those.
Right.
Or as if women are not worthy financially of that career. So, and that's, again, one of the non-protected is sex, male, female. So, anywho, what do you have for me? This has been a great hour. I've enjoyed this.
Thank
Hope
you.
y'all have. Yeah.
Sorry I was late.
No worries. Daniel's going to cut off that front part where we were just chit-chatting and getting started. It'll still be an hour. And then he'll post it for the rest. So.
I definitely want to jump in and do this now. I've heard, so many times it mentioned the Fairhaven, but I definitely want to jump in and do it.
We had a different experience. Like, a lot of people think simulation is going to be like, I mean, it's real. Like, it's definitely different than, just click and read. There's experiences and videos, and you get flipped, and you based upon how you decide. And you saw earlier, Kim, at the end, like you get to print a certificate, and you can use the marketing graphics that around it, and so on and so forth. So again, that's nar.realtor, and if you just click in, you got to sign in. So hi, Jason. And if you click in search Fairhaven, then it will take you to the right spot. And then you can just click on Fairhaven and start taking it at you can even start it, stop it, come back later, sign back in, pick back up. So, anywho, thank you, PBs, and we will be in touch.
Thank you.
Later,
Bye.
Gators.
Bye, Val.
Appreciate you.
Bye.